I have decided to make my first tunable loop antenna. It'll go to the person that received the Atwater Kent Model 145 radio. They're having a little trouble, you know, with the small antenna I gave them. And I said, you know, this would be a golden opportunity for me to go ahead and see what I can do about making a loop antenna. These are the two horizontal cross arms. Each one is 12.5 inches long. And I'm going to drill 17 holes in each one, 3/8 of an inch deep. For those of you who follow my videos, you know that the last Mish-Mash video we had up was Mish-Mash number 34. And one of our subscribers, Hedwig, Hedwig, he wanted to know, he said, you know, I saw that Bose radio play at the end of that Mish-Mash video, but I'd like to know how it is you came down and determined that that little tiny transistor was your problem. Well, you know, we really didn't know that was the primary problem, because there could have been further problems in this radio. But, you know, we went one thing at a time, and sure enough, guess what? You saw that the radio played at the end of the video. Let me take a look and show you how we did this. This is the bridge rectifier coming out of the transformer, and we were supposed to have 13.5 volts right here. Okay, we actually had 15.4. I wasn't going to argue. That was good enough. You know, the radio's old. It was made in 1994, if you want to call that old. Anyway, we kept on coming on down here, went up here and across and down, and of course we had two filter capacitors, just like you would find, you know, out of the rectifier, a couple of filter capacitors here. And then we were supposed to have about 20, somewhere around 20 volts going into this voltage regulator. Well, actually we had 20.8 volts DC. Now coming out, we were supposed to have 12 volts. Well, we actually had 11.7 volts DC. Well, everything's fine. You know, everything's working good up to this point. We had all the voltages we need. Then we got to Q401. That was the next problem to check. We had our 11.7 right here feeding down through the resistor to the collector on Q401. But on the other side, we were supposed to have 5 volts. We did not have it. There was nothing there. So I said, So I went ahead and took my multimeter and checked resistance between the collector and the emitter, and I got 2.5 ohms. 2.5 ohms. And then I switched them the other way. You know, put negative here, positive there, and then positive here and negative there, and I still got 2.5 ohms. It was shorted across the emitter and collector. It should have been open. We do not like shorts across emitters and collectors of transistors. No, that's bad. Very bad. Anyway, it was time to replace that, and I did. And like I said, we weren't sure that was the exact problem, but it was certainly one of them. And we already knew we did not have 5 volts going to the keypad. This is the part of the flat ribbon cable that runs up to display board, up where the keypad is. And we're supposed to have 5 volts right here. See there? And that 5 volts was missing. That was missing, that 5 volts, and this 5 volts was missing. Change the transistor and see what happens. So we did, and you saw the results. Radio started playing. Fantastic. That's how it was done. Nothing to it. Well, there's the first one drilled. Seems to be fairly straight. There may be a couple that are not quite as straight as they should be. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Looks like I got one up there that might be a little off. I hope not. You know, our old British buddy Phil here, for those of you who watch his videos and mine, he's known as Steel City 321 PB, right down in there, okay? And he fixes radios and he puts up videos. Unfortunately, recently he lost a couple of his videos, or all of his videos, with the changeover to this Google Plus. So, you know, he just kept a stiff upper lip, and he's going to go ahead and just start all over again. But, you know, I've been trying to Americanize this young man, trying to bring him along in the American way of doing things. And he's coming along nicely. He's doing very well. But, you know, I felt it's only, you know, fair that I try to become more English in return. You know, sort of turn around as fair play. Now let me give you an example. I'm trying to learn certain things about the way they speak over there. Now, listen to this, what he says in this one of his latest videos. This radio was brought to him by a person to be repaired, and it had been 4 weeks or 4 days earlier. He says that. So listen to his little thing here, and then we'll come back.
4 days ago, the husband of one of my wife's friends brought me this radio in for repair. He described it as being an old style set that he had owned for several years. As he produced it from a carrier bag, he assured me he was not extracting the urine.
Did you catch that? Did you catch that? When the guy took the radio out of the bag and handed it to Phil, he told him he was not extracting the urine. Well, it took me a few days to figure that one out, I'll tell you. Well, I finally have it. I got it. I want to explain to everyone here what it is. You know, when you go to the doctor for a physical, they take blood out of your arm, 2-3 vials of it, and then they send you into a little room and they tell you to urinate in these containers, for it to, your urine has to be tested. Well, that's called extracting the urine. Yeah, the doctor wants you to, you're extracting the urine. So when this guy brought this radio to Phil, he said he was not extracting the urine. Phil wanted this guy, and it must be some British custom or something when you take a radio to someone to be repaired. Phil wanted him to pee in a cup. That's what it was. He wanted him to pee in a cup. Well, apparently this guy was having a bad day, or he just couldn't go. So he told Phil, "I'm not extracting the urine." Well, there you go. Not only did we learn, a phrase from Britain, but we also learned about a little custom over there. You want your radio fixed, you better be prepared to pee in a cup. Well, there's a second one. At times like these, an old guy like me begins to realize how much his eyesight has really deteriorated. Bummer. When I went to have my physical a month ago or so, the doctor says I got a cataract coming up. A cataract? I'm too young to have cataracts. A tale from the jail. For those of you who follow my vids, you know that at one time I worked in a jail for several years, a county jail. Some states have a program, ours is one of them, where we can take inmates out of the penitentiary setting and bring them to the county jail to work, to do the menial task. Now these inmates in the penitentiary have to make application to come to the county jail. They have forms they fill out. They'll contact the county sheriff and say, "Hey, look, my name's Joe Blow, and I'm down in the penitentiary. This is my crime that I did. I'm here for 5 years, 10 years, life, or whatever. I'd like to come to your county and serve as a trustee." And it works out pretty good for the taxpayer. It gets these guys who have proven their good behavior down in the penitentiary, it gets them out of there and up to the county to work inside the jail. They're not allowed to, roam the streets or anything. They stay inside the jail, and they do things like cook and clean and, and do the laundry and do maintenance, things of that nature. And it saves the taxpayers a lot of money by doing that. Otherwise, they'd have to hire people to do that all the time, which would be good for the person being hired, but, it works out. Now, some states have tried this program. It didn't work. They got rid of it. Our state, it works out pretty good. I think it has to do with the attitude of the people within the state, to include the prisoners themselves. Anyway, we had this one feller. He was an older guy. He was white-haired like me. He had a lot more hair than I've got. He made application, and he came up to our county jail where I worked. And he was more of the administrative kind of feller. Being an old guy, he couldn't do a whole lot of physical tasks. So they put him to work doing typing and things of that nature, clerical work, which it was great. He's a nice guy. He's a good feller. And he had been incarcerated for about 2 or 3 years, I think, when he finally came up to the county. And before he got locked up in jail, before he was put in prison, he was a businessman, an outstanding member in the community. He had homes, he had cars, he had money in the bank, and I guess he had 2 or 3 businesses going, very successful. And then one day, he murdered his wife. Well, after he'd been in the jail for about a year or two, I sat down with him. You get to know these people after a while. How you doing? After a while, you just get to talk to them a little bit more, and instead of just passing them, in the jail hallways and byways and things. And I got talking to him. We'll call him Mr. Smith. I said, Mr. Smith, we were talking about his whole situation and how successful he had been at one time, and how he'd lost it all. It was all gone. He said, I lost everything. He said, all I have is the clothes on my back that the prison gave me. That's all I have. Nobody comes to visit me. Nobody sends me anything. Nobody gives me money. He says, I have nothing. My kids won't talk to me, none of that, which of course is to be understandable, So I said, well, let me ask you something, Mr. Smith. I said, with all these things you had going for yourself, apparently you and the wife could not get along and everything. It just kept continue to build. I mean, let me ask you something. I hate to be personal, but you murdered your wife and lost it all. Why didn't you just get rid of her? And he looked at me and he said, I did. Well, I have butchered them well enough. All the holes are drilled. They seem to be, fairly straight, fairly good. Nothing spectacular, of course, but with my old eyes, I'll tell you what, that was a lot harder than I thought. What we're going to be doing is taking a box of gold nails. These are gold nails, little short ones. These are 5/8. No, these are 3/4. I wanted 5/8. I didn't have 5/8, so I had to buy 3/4 by 15s, they're called. Brass screws. Anyway, they're going to be put in the wood like that. Okay? Just going to pound them in each hole, right on down. They go down about 3/8 of an inch into the bottom. Then hopefully the tops of each will be nice and even when I get done, all the way down. This is just a sample piece, just a test piece. And they'll be nice and even all the way down. And the next thing I have to do is cut a 3 by 3 inch piece of plexiglass out of here. And if it works, I'll cut a second one. And that's what will join the legs. These legs will be like this, like so. And then this other one will be like so. And then this is the mast, and then there'll be a base down here for it to sit on. And of course, this will be a 3 by 3 inch piece of plexiglass, which will be screwed to the center. I'll have it colored and painted, of course, and there'll be another one on the back, holding it all together right there. So now I think what we're going to do is wrap up this little video right here. I've pulled your ear long enough. I'll give you a progress report with each Mish-Mash video. I'm not sure what kind of wood this is, by the way. It's either cherry or red oak. I haven't quite figured it out. Strange. It's got all kinds of colored center wood in it. Look at that. That's not from the saw or anything. That's just colored wood. It might have been from the saw. I don't think so, though. It came out of this same piece right here. Anyway, that's it. Hopefully, now remember, this is the first attempt to make a loop antenna, a tunable loop antenna. So do not expect miracles. Anyway, until next time, this is John.